Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2025 Indigenous Math Education Symposium. The theme of this year's symposium is From Stars Above to Water Below, Indigenous Stories of STEM Education for Mathematical Flourishing. My name is Anita, and I'm joining you today from the unceded, ancestral, and traditional territory of the Musqueam people here at UBC Vancouver. I offer my respect to the knowledge keepers and community members, past, present, and future, who have stewarded this land since time immemorial. As we gather here to share and learn in this space, may we do so with humility, respect, and a commitment to meaningful reconciliation through education and action. I also want to gracefully and gratefully acknowledge our partners in the symposium for supporting this session today. I am joined here by with Dr. Cynthia Nicole, Professor of Mathematics Education in the Department of Curriculum and Pedagogy at the University of British Columbia. And I am a graduate student in Mathematics Education and a graduate research assistant. And we will be your facilitators today. Today, we will hear from two groups of presenters, each sharing for about 10 to 12 minutes and followed by a few minutes for questions and reflections. We will also have a short wellness break in between the two sessions. Our first presenters are Chelcy Ross and Monica Bergeron, who have collaborated on projects like Indigenous Garden Project, featured on the Indigenous Math Network. This year, they led a smaller scale project focused on the 4 hours of Indigenous Storywork and BC Math competencies. Chelsea is the district coordinator of Indigenous Education for School District 73. With 20 years of elementary teaching experience, she supports educators in deepening practice, numeracy, and Indigenous story work through culturally responsive, Indigenous knowledge-centered learning design and empowerment. Monica is the district numeracy coordinator for School District 73. With over 20 years of experience teaching math and science in School District 73 and School District 28, she now supports teachers and students in building math confidence and integrating both Aboriginal education topics and interdisciplinary ideas into their mathematics curriculum. So now, Chelsea and Monica, you have 10 to 12 minutes to share, and I will be giving you a reminder as we approach the 10 minutes mark. Chelsea,
Thanks for that introduction. We're just going to share our screen here. And I think everyone can see it. Is that correct?
Can you see our screen?
Perfect.
Okay,
Awesome.
excellent. So thank you for joining us today and choosing to come and listen about our Circle of Learning Indigenous Book Club. Anita, you already did a fantastic introduction, so I'll just say that I'm Monica, the numeracy coordinator.
And I'm Chelsea. Awesome. So we would like to start off by acknowledging that we are zooming in from the territory of the Secwepemc Nation, specifically to Kamloops to Secwepemc territory, and that this is Kamloops for those who want to know that. So yeah, so that's where we're coming from.
So first of all, we want to talk about the book that we chose. So the book that we chose was The Animal People Choose a Leader, written by Richard Wagamese. And we just want to outline a few reasons why we chose this book. So it's extremely well written, the story, and it's beautiful illustrations. If you have a chance to get a copy of this book, I highly recommend it. It connected to the 4 Rs of Indigenous Storywork so easily. We thought there'd be a lot of student connection about qualities of leadership. And we also could see a lot of connections in terms of K-7 mathematics curriculum. So we thought that it would be a great one for our book study.
So our project intentions for this was we wanted to enhance teacher pedagogy in numeracy and Indigenous story work, so that teachers would be empowered to be able to include that Indigenous knowledge when they're designing their mathematical lessons. And ultimately, we wanted to create a kit that you could take out from our district library that would showcase the teacher's reflections, as well as have everything that they needed in there to kind of implement it in their classroom. You'll notice throughout our slide work, we have included some of the pictures, so you can see the pictures there, as well as some of the quotes that stood out to us from the story.
So in order for other teacher leaders in the province to try and do this, we thought we would go through how we decided to run the book club. So the first thing we thought about is how do we want to meet? What is the format of the meetings going to be? And we decided upon 2 Zoom meetings and a dinner gathering in between. So One of the reasons for that is we wanted to respect and value people's time. We thought that that would be a good balance. The time frame between the meetings was really thought out for a reason, so we included the dates in there. And that we wanted to have that balance between in-person and online learning, again, because we're geographically, we're quite a spread out school district. And we really felt it was important to do the dinner gatherings because collaborating over food reflects Indigenous culture values. And as we've gotten feedback from our participants, we've included some quotes, and we'll make this slide deck accessible to everyone later. And then you can see the quotes about what people thought in terms of our format.
So what we had to do was try to get participants to join us. So how we did that is we actually created a Google form that people had to sign up for. The first time we advertised this during an Indigenous Professional Development Day, which was led by Monica. So we had some participants there. Our district puts out a teacher's bulletin weekly, as well as we have for our Indigenous department, we have a Monday memo that goes out to all of our the sponsors and that, not sponsors, sorry, wrong word, to all the teachers and that, and the principals and that. And then word of mouth was the other way we got some people.
And we had 12 people join us.
Yeah, we had 14 sign up and 12 actually stay with us.
Yeah. So our first meeting was all about building community. And I know we said Zoom, but we couldn't use Zoom because our meeting was a little too long. So we used Microsoft Teams. And what we did was we introduced the book in our first meeting, and we introduced a little bit about the 4 R's of Indigenous story work. And then we talked about mathematical mindset and Indigenous pedagogy. And then we really outlined the timeline for all the other meetings. And then we introduced our Google Drive and the Padlet, how they were going to share their thoughts.
So once again, we introduced the 4 R's. We are going to kind of skip this slide and you can read this on your own.
Yeah, and the 4 R's came from Dr. Joanne Archibald's website on Indigenous Storywork. And so those things are linked in there too when you go to look at the slide deck later. We're also going to skip the mathematical habits of mind because it's something you guys can read later, and we want to give time for questions.
So first off, as Monica said, we did really want to honor people's time. So we made sure that people were committed to reading the book over spring break and providing reflections. So what we used for our platform was called Padlet. The reason we chose Padlet is it's free. So that's a big thing. It's really well organized. We were able to organize it in each of the R's. People were allowed to write something about it. Plus then you could comment on what anyone else had written. So that was really great. And then we could also put the math in there. And as you can see, our participants did really enjoy that format of being able to connect and put their thoughts down for it.
Yeah, and as soon as one person put something in, and then it would almost sparked everyone else. So it was kind of great like that. In our second meeting, we were preparing for the dinner gathering. And so the way that we prepared for this is we created our agenda, and then we booked a local knowledge keeper, and you can see her there. That's Jackie Jules. And then we gathered and organized the information from the Padlet because people are making all sorts of comments, and we wanted to not kind of use up the time to do that in the meeting. We wanted to have that kind of done for people. So we grouped them into themes. And yeah, I think that's all we can say about it.
And then these are some of the resources that we use for it. So you'll see First Peoples Principles of Learning, Indigenous Storywork by Dr. Joanne Archibald, which was our talk. Wahiwa, Indigenous Pedagogies was another resource we used. And then
we also use these summary curriculum guides when we did do the mathematics connection, so people could connect them to competencies.
So this is our dinner gathering. As you can tell, Jackie was amazing. So Jackie, actually, if you can see in the background, she actually came with some of her own storyboards and like shared some of her stories with us. We started off with drumming, a prayer, which was wonderful. You can also see, as Monica mentioned, so this is our Padlet here. So we did have like where each R was already, we had organized everyone's thought, got some themes out of it. They then related that to the First People's Principles of Learning. And then we really wanted to say, okay, well, now we have this knowledge, but what are you going to do with it in your classroom? Because we really wanted takeaways for everyone. And so as you can see here from the Post-it notes, they actually decide, well, what are ways we can use this in our classroom? So that was great. And then if you
and then I guess up at the top there, where so then what we did is after we had dinner, then we kind of flipped over into looking at mathematically, and we went in grade level groupings. So K1 teachers, 2 to 3, 4, 5, and 6, 7. And they thought about projects and connections to the book. that they could make in terms of mathematics. And then what the other thing I was gonna, oh yeah. So you'll see that the title is underlined. That's because we linked our entire slide deck from the dinner gathering. So if you kind of wanted to go through and see what that information was that we got from the book, you're welcome to do so.
Then we came to our third meeting, which was another Microsoft Teams where we kind of brought it all together. Once again, like during the dinner, we did have a gallery walk, but we felt it was kind of rushed due just to time frames. So what we once again did is for each of the R's, we kind of went through, we organized it for what their classroom intentions were that we had gathered from that. And then we put it in, we went through it during our Zoom and we gave more time for reflection and just if people wanted to add anything or if they actually had something that was sparked in their classroom after the dinner and they wanted to put it. So that's what we had gave time
So
for.
we were just kind of trying to layer in the consolidation. So first the consolidation of the work from the book itself, not thinking about your classroom, just reading the book with that Storywork lens, and then translating into what do you see that in action in your classroom?
And
then we did the same thing with the numeracy connection. So we took all of what was written down on the grade 2-3 board or the grade 4-5 board, and we really consolidated that information to start to build this consortium resources.
And so one of the things that we have is project extensions. So where we want to go with here. No, let Monica talk.
Oh, okay. So I mean, again, Chelcy and I, we always remind each other, okay, it's not the product in the end. It's all about the learning and the mentorship, which is really the important thing here. And but everyone really wanted to continue the work, and we were talking about building a curriculum guide that goes with the book. So what this kit would include is a copy of the book, and then we got permission to enlarge and laminate the 2-page spread of the book so that you'd have storyboards. And then it would include our information about the 4 R's. So a teacher would be able to read that. Some guiding questions around the 4 R's that teachers can ask as they read the book with their class. And then we want to create a lesson plan for each of the different grade spans. And so, yeah, that's where our work is heading.
Yes.
Yes.
Exactly. And so that's that hands-forward mentorship. So once again, we're taught by Dr. Vincent Stogan and Solano. I apologize if I mispronounce the name. Just about hands back to learn from our ancestors, hands forward to teach. So really wanting to do that. We did have feedback from our participants. So some things that were positive is they really felt that the book club did enhance their Indigenous story work as FPPL, as well as mathematics, Indigenous mathematics. They also liked the format of the dinner Zoom, but they did want to have more sessions. And they suggested like an in-person startup, so to really build that community. Another thing was during our Zooms, it was a very short window of 45 minutes, which in retrospect, we realized it should have been a bit longer. So they wanted more interaction, more time to share. And then more time to build the resources, because that was one of the things that teachers did say they wanted was time to build stuff to get it to use within their classroom. So that's what we took away from our feedback.
And so, yeah, I guess moving forward, so now we're thinking of, so we're going to keep in mind that the focus is on the journey and not at the end result. However, at the same point, we're happy that the teacher pedagogy was enhanced in both areas. But also more importantly, maybe even we built a community of educators that were eager to continue with the work and are feeling comfortable maybe mentoring others in this work next year. We know that the dinner gathering was absolutely essential as part of the whole thing. And next year, we're going to send out an agenda prior to the Zoom that has guiding questions already, just to give people some time to think about what their responses could be. And then, like Chelcy was saying, putting in a few more gatherings. We just didn't want to overtax people's time. And we have to learn how to use Microsoft Teams better. That's our learning.
That's our learning. Yes, that's definitely our learning.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so there's so much to see, and the feeling of being on it is beautiful, because that's a quote from the story, which once again just takes us back to land. So it takes us back to place, because that's where we are in this journey. And so once again, thank you very much, Musi. And so, yeah, is there any questions? And I think we're under, look at that.
Look at that. Come on.
10 seconds, I'm sorry.
I have a question. Thank you very much for your presentation. As always, I always learn so much from what you are sharing. And I know that you're working on connections at the elementary level,
Mhm.
but I also know I think maybe Joanne Jovanovic from Haida is in the room. I know she was using the book with grade 12 students. So I'm just wondering what your thoughts are, thinking about connections to maybe some of the mathematics at the grade 12 level. If any thoughts you might have to make going from elementary to secondary.
I think the information in there is like, so I can see graphing all over the place as a former secondary high school teacher, like, and definitely proportionality. There's so much stuff about scale and proportionality that you can pull from the book. I just kind of kept in the lane of K to 7 when I did
Mhm.
this project, just
Mhm.
because that's what we had
That's
with
our
us.
participants. That's who signed up. So we did put it out to everyone. So it was K-12 who it went out to.
Mhm.
But our participants who did sign up were elementary based. So then we did end up tailoring it to that
Yeah.
elementary. But what was beautiful about it is the fact that we did have K-7. Like we had
Yeah.
a couple participants from each grade. So that was one nice thing about it, is we weren't just only primary, or we weren't only intermediate, but we
Mhm.
did have a mixture. So I think that was great.
It would be neat to connect with Joanne too and
Yeah.
see, like, taking the same book and looking at a different grade level and to
Mhm.
see like kind of how they looked at it too.
Mhm. Yeah.
I'm gonna
Thank you.
stop sharing our screen.
I have some questions on the chat. Someone is asking, can you tell us a little about the story and the mathematics within? And the next,
Sure. Yeah. Do you want-
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the story, well, you can't see the screen
Hang on.
anymore, but Waboos is this wise little buddy. And his idea of leadership is a little bit different than all of the other animals' idea of leadership, but the way that he kind of teaches everybody about that is in a gentle way with just a lot of humility, right? And so it really begs to the question of what it is to be a leader. And so they decide that they're going to race around this lake 4 times, and then whoever comes in first will be the leader. But they see that it's not as simple as that. I don't want to ruin the whole story, but the math there is, I think, right away that you can see that you have different animals showing not only different leadership traits, but then also like the actual gait of the animal and how fast an animal would typically travel around that. You could do all sorts of things with rate and patterning. Yeah, exactly. And also even the illustrations, you could bring in some art about symmetry. So when you go to look at those illustrations, they're really interesting how they did that. So there's so many things.
yeah,
Click on the dinner gathering link. That will give you a lot of stuff about the mathematics.
and one more question we can take. Someone is asking, how will you choose the next book?
Oh, we've been talking about that. Go ahead, Chelsea.
No, so we have been talking about that. One thing is like how Monica shared, like how we kind of chose this story is kind of the guidelines that we're using to choose our next story. Ultimately, though, we would like to be able to get a local story that we are using. So that would be the ultimate. We do have a few local artists, our authors, which we do have books for. So we're in the process actually. If you actually have any suggestions too, please do put them in the chat. That would be great. But yeah, so I think we were leaning towards we are all connected, but
Yeah.
we're like open to
And just if
suggestions.
you're choosing to do this, really, I would suggest reading it with an R in mind and then reading it again with a different R in mind. If your brain is thinking of all sorts of different things, the mathematics will likely come out as well. But really starting with that Indigenous storywork lens, I think is key.
And also I want to say that like that when we are meeting, we are also getting all kind of different kind of information, and also that indigenous first people principles you are talking about in that way, and mathematics all. It's a very good way to connect people and take the idea forward. Thank you. So I think Caroline and Hodgson, what 2 questions were there, and you have answered both the questions. So thank you so much, Chelsea and Monica, for your inspiring presentation.